Bring in possible action to adopt the county's annual budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. At our last Board of Commissioner meeting, we had discussion on this, and it was presented to the board. And since then, we have had a work session to discuss some issues. And tonight we are here for further discussion and a possible action to approve the budget. And with that, I'll open the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
I still have concerns about the building at Whalehead, where we're approving money, but we have no final decision of what we're going to do with all of the boats or what we exactly want it to be or to finish out with. I guess that's one of my concerns in this budget.
Okay. As I understand it, this is an allocation for funding to build this facility. All of the final drawings and applications and approvals have to come before this board before it is finalized. So this is basically a placeholder for those funds.
But we have over 20 boats, and we're only putting, I think, 7 inside of the building, possibly.
But that's correct, and we're going to, I don't want to say dispose of, but we're going to sell or donate the other remaining boats.
The intent was to, 6 of the boats have been restored, is to display for public viewing the 6 boats. But the remaining 20-plus boats still need to be stored and protected and will be integrated into this facility, is the intention right now, unless the board, when we bring you back a building and you start seeing the size and scope of the building, unless we get different direction, that's the intent of this building. In addition to having public bathrooms and perhaps some demonstration community meeting space in it. But you are correct, it's a budget figure. There is a committee working on the designs. They will need to bring that back with the plan of operation to this board for your approval before we can go forward and spend any of those funds or undertake any project. It will require action by this board.
So the intent is to have the building be able to house all 26 boats? Is it going to be that large?
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, with only 6 needing to be, 6 of them will need to have adequate floor space to be able to display. The other ones can be stacked and stored in a different fashion, so it's not as much space as you really think about, because they're just trying to preserve those, protect them. Right. The only 6 of them is where they're going to need to have the ability to walk around, but the others can be racked and stored in different fashions to save as much space as possible. Or the board can decide that some number of those would be handled in some different fashion.
And the intent is to, I guess, do the on-site, if we pick one that has to still be restored, would that be done on-site also?
The 6 that are being requested to be displayed have already been restored. The Whalehead Trust already restored those boats.
Say we decide one more, would we have facility space based on just the thought?
If the board wanted to display more, then the building would need to be able to accommodate displaying that boat, yes.
But there's no intention to restore boats at this facility, correct?
No, they discussed having a small demonstration area where perhaps an artisan could show how boats were, different pieces were done, but not a working facility to the extent that you could restore on site, no.
Yeah, have an old Juniper show me you pack the joints like we used to back in the day.
When you were a young man?
Right. Before engines ready up again.
Next, going into the multi-use path, I know that this year the budget, there is no funds set for actually working on the walkway itself, but there are other portions of this area that we're working on, that we were accomplishing this year with that money. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have been, over the years, systematically pursuing the capital projects that were identified in a community plan called Connecting Corolla. The multi-use path was a major part of that, but it wasn't the only part of that. And so in this particular year, there's funds to continue the effort to meeting the recommended improvements under the connecting Corolla, with still a view to and still a goal of completing the multi-use path. But as we discussed it on the budget work sessions, there's some access issues and restrictions for us right now that we have to work through before we can move forward with actually putting additional sidewalk on the ground. So we will be focusing on some additional community signage, an NC-12 beautification program, some additional connectivity between NC-12 and the beach. All these are recommendations that came out of the Community Connecting Corolla plan.
So as soon as those obstacles are addressed, then we're going to move forward with the bike path.
Yes, sir. There's money in the long-term plan. There's funds in out years that continue to get put forward, so that when that project is ready to pick back up and continue, there'll be funding available to do so.
And possibly in the second year of this budget even?
That is possible, yes.
Great.
Any further discussion? If I can, real quick, Mr. Scanlon, many thanks to your staff and to yourself. I know this budget process is quite time-consuming and quite involved. We appreciate all the hard work. I know I said this at the last meeting, but again, to the board members, everyone is so involved. You can tell that everyone really wants to do a good job and are concerned about taking care of our citizens' money and being good stewards. And on behalf of myself and the county, I appreciate that very much. And with that, I will open the floor for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
Although I don't think anybody
public hearing. I apologize.
You will need to go to a public hearing.
I apologize. And with that, I open the public hearing. No one has signed up for the public hearing. Is there anyone would like to speak? And with that, I will close the public hearing, and I will open the floor for a motion. Thank you, Mr. Scanlon.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we continue this to June 19th, where all commissioners would be available for the meeting in order to have this vote.
So you'd like Ms. Etheridge to be here, Commissioner Etheridge to be here?
It's a 2-year budget. It's $71 million.
Okay.
In case you may have input.
All right. I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just add I've seen a lot of emails. Do we have any reason to believe that Commissioner Etheridge has details that we've not been made aware of?
Mr. Beaumont, we do not. I have had discussions with Ms. Etheridge, who unfortunately could not be here this evening. She did have some issues that were addressed at the work session, and she is comfortable with the budget at this point. I cannot speak on behalf of her, but that is my indication.
Well, there's no problem with.
Does the budget have to be passed unanimously because we're less than 7?
No, sir.
Okay.
And do we have the time still, June 19th, as long as it's before July 1st?
All you have to do is adopt it before July 1st.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a show of hands on that, please?
For just continuing it till Ms. Kitty can be here.
I'll eye on that. I don't mind continuing the work session. Give her be here.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Mr. McCree, what do I do now?
With a tie vote, the motion does not pass, and you may now consider another motion.
Thank you, Mr. McCree.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the budget for as presented to the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We have 5 ayes and a no. Motion passes. Moving on to new business, board appointments.